Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's OpenAthens session. So first, we're going to be hearing from Dan Mayers, our head of product here at OpenAthens, in terms of where next for OpenAthens in the product space. And then we'll be hearing from Matt Olive, our customer services manager, on how we're extending our customer support. So we're going to be starting with Dan. Just a reminder, if you want to send any questions for any of the speakers, please do so in the Q&A panel. You can also use the chat panel if you want to speak with the other attendees, or if you want to just have a casual chat or make some comments during the presentations. And also important to notice that we also have live transcripts. So if you want a live transcript, just click on the CC button at the bottom of your panel. So without further ado, Dan, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Can you see me? So yeah, welcome to Access Lab. My name is Dan Mayers. I'm the head of product at OpenAthens. There is that slide there. So yeah, I'm going to spend the next 15-20 minutes talking about where we are heading with OpenAthens in general in the future. I started at the company August last year. I'm fairly new to identity access management. I came from a kind of game development background, which is fairly well removed from identity access management. So there's been a lot to learn over the last 6-7 months, but I have got a background in higher education, working in UK universities as an academic, which is where I first heard about and used OpenAthens. So what I'm going to do today is talk through some of the things I've learned over the last 6 months and look at how those kind of insights and knowledge are helping to shape the direction of the products in the future. And specifically how we need your help. We're sort of adopting a user-centered design process, obviously. So part of developing these products means talking to everybody here about what their needs are and how our products are supporting those needs. So I'm just going to kick off talking about where OpenAthens is at the moment, and then talk through some of the specifics in terms of the sort of priorities and the next steps. So when I joined the company, one of the things that was that really struck me and really struck a chord was the fact that it's a mission-driven business. John mentioned this earlier on. Fundamentally, we exist to remove barriers to knowledge. That's a very powerful thing to do, and it's something that we do for a lot of people around the world. So we cover 194 different countries, North Korea and Antarctica accepted at the moment. Last calendar year, we had 159 million transfers, so that's a significant number of people around the world being connected to research, which is a great thing. That's our kind of end user focus. The other thing I love is the fact that it's an international business. We're a global business, so almost 2,500 libraries across the world. We're working with 2/3 of those are outside the UK. On the publisher side, we've got 125 publishers in the OpenAthens Federation. Again, they're 2/3 outside the UK, international global business. And then we're supporting the kind of additional enabled proxy resources, almost 3,000 of those, to make sure that we are connecting people to knowledge where they need it. So I guess implicit in that last slide and those last couple of slides is the idea that we work with 3 kind of distinct groups of customers. We've got the librarians on one side, we've got the publishers, and then we've got the learners and researchers, students themselves, the end users. And our product lines really cover each of those. They almost work in silos. So on the left-hand side, you've got librarians, which is the OpenAthens service, a premium library service that connects libraries to publishers. We have an OpenAthens Federation that helps support publishers in connecting to libraries. And then on the learner side, again, as John mentioned, we've got MyAthens Plus, which is our web portal to help connect end users to the resources they need. The reality is that this is a complicated space, and it doesn't quite work as in a sort of siloed product development track. All these things need to be enmeshed together. They are enmeshed together, and we need to work together holistically to make sure that as many people as possible can get access to knowledge. But what we're going to do now is to go through sort of those three areas and just look at how we're working specifically in those areas, and then talk about sort of immediate priorities on the roadmap. So on the library side, we currently have a very strong customer base in the UK and in North America and in Australia. There's lots of customers in those, but the truth is, in those territories, we have even more people that we can be helping. So from a product perspective, we're looking at ways that we can go about helping more people. But there's obviously a lot of the rest of the world as well. So part of the work of the last 6, 7 months, 6, 7, 8, 9 months, is to explore what those opportunities might be elsewhere in the world to help make sure we're helping people access knowledge. So we've done some research projects in UKFE, we've looked at Latin America, we looked at Southeast Asia, we've worked in Africa to try and understand what the needs of users, customers, librarians are in those territories. And that's really the kind of next step for what we look at with OpenAthens. It is a complex space, and the themes we are looking at, the product through, are around globalization, localization, and simplification. There is a lot of complexity. If we're going to help more people get access to knowledge, we need to make it easier for the service to be used. We need to give people, make sure people are empowered and autonomous in terms of how they use the product. So that means a more self-service product, a more intuitive UI to make sure that people can use the service easily. If we're going to be a more global proposition, then we need to make sure that our products are well localized, that they're translated into the languages that people need them to be, and that they are usable by everybody. So that means adhering to accessibility standards globally. So they're the kind of three themes that we're looking at, or the themes that we're looking at around the library side. That's really a sort of ongoing process of refining, iterating, simplifying across the OpenAthens platform. On the publisher side, globalization and simplification is a similar thing, right? So we've got the OpenAthens Federation, which is 125 publishers strong. They cover almost 90% of the access resources, and they benefit from all the benefits of federated access, security, analytics, easier onboarding. But it doesn't account for all of the resources that we're helping people connect to. So we have this long tail of proxy resources. So the remaining 10%, I guess, of access resources is made up of almost 3,000 proxy resources, which is, proxying is relatively straightforward, which is kind of why it's used so much, but it doesn't always give the best experience. So it can be less robust, it's less secure, it has sort of limited insights in terms of its analytics. So one of the sort of questions is, okay, well, how do we kind of resolve some of those things? How can we address some of those things for a publisher? And I guess the question for the next sort of back end of the year as a sort of discovery path is to try and ask the question, how can we bring the benefits of federated access to more publishers? How can we understand the needs of publishers more clearly? And that involves talking to as many people as we can, because what we're going to be looking at is ways that we can reduce the technical complexity that might inhibit smaller publishers getting involved. How can we make sure that access and entitlement systems are easy to use? How can we help increase security and analytics for smaller publishers? And really, we can only do that, again, just to reiterate, by talking to as many people as possible and really drilling into understanding what is needed and why and how we can help, because the more we can refine those services, ultimately, the more people we can help connect to knowledge, which is ultimately the mission, as I said earlier. So the third track that we're looking at is the learners and researchers piece. And this was a piece of research that we did. I'm just going to highlight a piece of research that we did that was born out of the work that we did on MyAthens Plus. And that was to look at the platform and to look at the needs of learners and researchers worldwide. So about 9 months ago, we did a piece of research where we spoke to students from across the world, learners and researchers from across the world. We talked to people from America, Australia, Southeast Asia, Africa, to try and understand how MyAthens Plus, how we can develop MyAthens Plus feature-wise to support their needs. And there were a couple of fairly clear conclusions that came out of it, which was super interesting. First was, unsurprisingly, there were significant global inequalities between the people that we were speaking to. So people in, in these territories, Southeast Asia, Nigeria, the Philippines, they, infrastructure-wise, had issues that we might not have in Bristol or Cambridge or London or Boston. So intermittent broadband and electricity going down. They tended to work on mobile phones rather than desktops. They had limited institutional support, so they couldn't always get access to the material they needed. There were paywalls they were hitting, and there wasn't a sense of resource curation. So they were effectively missing some of the research gaps that they needed to do the work that they were trying to do. So the guy on the top left did an MSc in plant biology. He wrote a paper for that as part of that course, submitted it to the journals, and they wrote back and said, this piece of work has been done 10 years previously, which was a kind of really powerful insight into some of the issues that are there, and the idea of being able to address some of those things really is quite powerful in terms of expanding the global human knowledge. So the other sort of piece, the other sort of learning, I guess, was the idea that there was a disconnected workflow for researchers, and this wasn't specific to any territory. This was across the board. It was universal. There was a sense that there wasn't a single place to manage and store and find research. So there were lots of different tools that were out there, but not all of those tools were connected in a meaningful way that allowed people to create a workflow. So there was a lot of disconnection, working on an Excel file, working on a Word file, highlighting things, bolding things, trying to find links to things. And there was a sense that researchers and learners had to kind of shape their own workflow, but it wasn't held within the system. So I think one of the interesting things to look at from that perspective is how MyAthens Plus might be able to be progressed in that direction, and what other opportunities there are for using OpenAthens or for working with the technology that we have to try and connect some of these things together. That ties to John's single idea. Maybe there's something that we can do there that helps sort of connect these disparate things together. So yes, so that's the kind of three. So the question we're trying to answer on the learners and researchers side is how might we make finding access and using high quality research easier for more people globally, because ultimately that's a very powerful thing to have done. So we've got our kind of 3 tiers of product ranges, product lines. I'm just going to talk through this sort of strategic roadmap piece and just highlight what we are doing next, where we're going to be going, sort of in the immediate term. Those 3 pillars are the kind of long-term goals, I guess, and I'm just going to talk through the sort of immediate goals. The first thing to say really is we have some strategic themes. When we look at product development, we look at it through a number of lenses, and these are the 3 lenses that we are looking at sort of development through. The first is simplification. This is a complicated space. There's a great degree of complexity in terms of institution sizes, scales, expertise, needs, different systems, and lots of different things going on. So part of the task is to simplify, is to look at everything that we do through the lens of simplification. That means refining UX and UI. It means user-centered design, so talking to people about what their needs are. Really, it runs across the whole thing. Product design, product portfolio, tone of voice, how we show documentation, everything should be looked at through that lens. We have localization as another thing. So what's multi-language support. If we're going to be a global business, we need to be able to translate into lots of different languages. We need to be developing new partnerships worldwide. Again, that ties back almost to the user-centered design piece, really getting to grips with an understanding of what people need in different territories, on both the librarian and publisher side and the student side. And then there's the innovation kind of thread. As we're exploring new pieces of feature development, what can we spot in terms of new services and products that can help remove barriers to knowledge globally? So that might be things like the single learner ID piece that John's talked about already. So everything we do looks through these lenses, and then that translates into the roadmap. sort of the short-term roadmap and then the long-term goal of expanding the number of people we're helping worldwide. So the roadmap for the immediate roadmap for 2022 looks.
Sorry, Dan, we're almost time for the Q&A. So.
Gotcha. So I will very quickly go through this one then. Thank you, Cynthia. OpenAthens resource card improvements, making those more personalized. Password strengthening, security piece that you've got to do to make sure that the system's robust. Improvements to the auth point, so making sure that error messages are clearer and the experience of going through the auth point is much smoother. And then these 3 threads of improving the UI and the UX of OpenAthens as a platform, and exploring and understanding what people need from the publisher side and also from the learners and researchers side. The thread along the bottom is a continual iterative and prioritized enhancement. So when questions come through about things that people really want to see, they get triaged and assessed and evaluated and then played into the roadmap on an ongoing basis. So we're always enhancing and improving incrementally the whole service, as well as looking at ongoing feature development. Hopefully that's quick enough. Sorry, Cynthia. Does anybody have?
Thank you, Dan. So are we okay to go to the Q&A now?
Yep, for sure, go.
Awesome. So I have a few questions here. Also, if you want to ask Dan a question, please put it on the Q&A panel. So the first one that I have is from Nate. So Nate's asking, as a US government agency, we're primarily interested in whether OpenAthens is pursuing a FedRAMP authorization. If not, we will likely never be authorized to use OpenAthens.
It is on the roadmap and it's an ongoing discussion. Yes, it came up the other day in a conversation we had with another customer in America. So yeah, it is on the roadmap. We're looking into the implications or the requirements, but it is on the roadmap now, yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Dan. I have another question here from Frank. So in light of the 28,100 proxy resources, is there any thought of placing the proxy IP within the home country of this institution? I.e., instead of having a UK IP address, maybe have a OpenAthens US data center to provide a US IP resulting in quicker response time?
That is a great question, and it's a question I don't have the answer to, I'm afraid, Frank. So I will take note of that and get somebody to come back to you from a technical perspective. I think that would be quite useful. But I understand what you're saying. But I'll get something more for my technical.
That's great. Frank, if you want to leave your contact at openathens.net, and then we can get in touch with you, can pass on your contact details to Dan if we already don't have them.
I'll put this slide up as well, Cynthia. If there's any questions, it's a two-way thing. We have loads of questions. The product team has loads of questions about user needs. So I just want to reiterate, if there are people watching and listening that want to get involved in the research and want to get involved in helping us shape the best product we can, then we are super keen to talk to as many of you as we can. So please do get in touch.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, any questions as well, please get in touch. If you have any further questions after the presentation, I can see Jane has posted our email for contact here in the chat box. Thank you very much, Dan. It was a great presentation. And thanks everyone who asked questions. Amazing. So I think now we're going to go to Matt's session. So Matt, welcome. So Matt will be talking about how we're extending customer support. And Matt is our customer services manager here at OpenAthens. So again, same thing, please put your questions in a Q&A panel. Feel free to use the chat to speak with each other and make comments. And also the closed caption button. It's available on the panel. So Matt, over to you.
Thank you very much, Cynthia. And can you see my slides okay?
Yes.
Fantastic, fantastic stuff. So yeah, like Cynthia said, I'm Matt Olive. I'm the Customer Services Manager here at OpenAthens. I'm primarily responsible for our service desk and onboarding teams, and I'm coming to you today from a rather sunny Weston-super-Mare in the southwest of the UK. I do have a lot to cover this afternoon. It will be quite fast-paced, so I'm going to jump straight in to our onboarding welcome pack, which is something that we wanted to provide customers with when they first start to onboard with the OpenAthens service. And some of our objectives around the welcome pack were to generate some excitement and engagement at the beginning of a customer's journey with OpenAthens, helping customers to get a better understanding of the onboarding process and what kind of questions might come up. Setting expectations, for example, around timescales, things like that. And of course, the role of the customer in the implementation, because every successful OpenAthens implementation is a collaboration. And just to say here that the scope of this was really for identity provider customers when we put this together. So I'm just going to whiz through the welcome pack for you. We've got something that says a little bit about OpenAthens, ways in which customers can connect with us. So our listserv, our YouTube channel, links to our documentation and training resources, as well as some of the customers that we also have on our website. We've got 6 kind of key onboarding steps that we highlight here, but we do go into far more detail on our website in our library onboarding guides. And the same can be said about onboarding FAQs as well. So there's a handful of questions here that may come up throughout the implementation. A number of those are answered on our website and our onboarding FAQs. We thought it'd be useful for customers to have a record of things like their entity ID, their scope, and their proxy IP, as well as key contact details for your account manager and your dedicated implementation specialist. Yeah, we've got something in here also around some of our onboarding targets, so around timescales, and these are of course dependent upon many factors, so things like number of resources, permission sets, attribute release policies, whether you've got sub-organizations or integration with third-party systems, things like that. And then we go into a bit more detail about the implementation. So those 6 steps I just alluded to, we go into a bit more detail here. There are actions on the customer side as well as on the OpenAthens side, and there are links to various bits of documentation as well. And then there's some useful things to know. So, things like changes to the scope need to be reviewed because these can push out any projected go live date. Completeness of information, really, really important so that we can get customers on board as soon as possible. When am I live? I mean, that's something that we agree upon, normally at the start of the implementation, and we can revise that as we go through. And we sometimes need a hand setting up resources, particularly when we don't hear back from providers. That's not uncommon. And finally, there's a bit here around training, which is something that we recommend for all OpenAthens administrators. I just want to share a couple of comments from an academic customer in Switzerland. Who says that they referred to this guide many times during their implementation, holds a lot of information in a single place. Good to get an understanding of the different steps, what to expect from the customer side, contact details, etc., etc. And that same customer goes on to say that the website's very well done, but it was very useful for them to have a guide that collates all of the various links to the relevant bits of our website, instead of them having to browse through the website to find the same content. Right, I'm going to move us on. We're going to look at the onboarding customer charter now. Some of you may remember that back in 2019, our service desk created their own customer charter, and our onboarding team have been wanting to do the same. So like the service desk one, once again, what's great about this is that it was put together entirely by the team. And it looks at 3 main points really around service excellence, priding ourselves on high quality support, expertise and the team's ability to help customers navigate their way through even the most complex of implementations, and collaboration with our customers, because as we touched upon previously, the best implementations are the ones where we have a good amount of input from our customers. And then we've got the customer charter in its full glory here. So you know, our approach speaks about having somebody dedicated to be on hand, making complex things simple. You know, just removing some of the some of the mystery around onboarding onto the OpenAthens service, tailoring our approach, making sure that we get it right for you as a customer, because no two implementations are the same. And of course, you know, we pride ourselves on being technical leaders in our space. Around the support we provide, yeah, you know, as well as just getting you onboarded onto the service, we want to make sure that you get the most out of the product and the most out of the service. It's about keeping you informed and up to date. That collaboration word again, you know, the key to success. The team are flexible, we're adaptable, we have a global reach, and culture is, you know, the team culture is one where we are open, honest, and supportive to each other, and we hope that reflects back in some of our customer interactions as well. As far as your role as a customer, well, when being onboarded, yeah, we just need to understand your needs. We need to tailor the best solution for you. And completeness of information, as we've said previously, is really, really important. It means a better onboarding experience for both of us, and that engagement piece as well, and making sure that you know, we have customer engagement throughout the process. And just like our service desk, it's your feedback which drives us. You know, we're always looking at ways to get more meaningful feedback following each and every completed OpenAthens implementation. More on this shortly. I'm going to move us on, and we're now going to talk about OpenAthens support in Asia Pacific, which is the extended customer support bit, if you like. Customers, resellers, partners have been telling us for quite some time that we lack a dedicated OpenAthens support presence in the Asia Pacific region. Customers are telling us that they want support in their local language, they want support in their own time zone. Local partner and reseller teams are citing a lack of dedicated OpenAthens support at a pre-sale stage, you know, those conversations with customers from local sales teams. And of course, APAC is a key market for a couple of reasons, and one of which we've already got some quite large customers in that region, but it's also a good growth opportunity for us as well. We very much see the APAC region as a growth market, and that's why we know that we need better quality support out in that region, which of course results in happy customers, which is the reason we all come to work in the first place. I'm sure you'll agree. Our current support coverage looks like this. I've based this illustration on British summertime, because that's what we'll be moving to in the UK from this coming weekend. And as you can see, for Australia and Singapore on the left of the slide, we don't cover a great deal of their working day. So that's how things currently look as far as our current support coverage is concerned. And I'm delighted to be able to share with you today that we will shortly be extended our customer support into Singapore. We chose Singapore mainly around the ease of setting up an overseas subsidiary, but also because of its skilled and technology-driven workforce. And having an established customer support function in Singapore will really help us to connect with our customers across the Asia Pacific region, as well as providing support to local OpenAthens resellers. And that will result ultimately in some extended opening hours coming soon. So our projected service desk opening hours will be from 2 AM to 10 PM UK time, which represents a 33% daily increase over the support coverage that we currently provide from within the UK. So our support coverage will grow from 15 hours a day to 20 hours a day. And what you can see here, you know, the projected coverage as a result means that we now cover far more of the working day for colleagues in Australia and neighbouring countries. In fact, the whole of the working day for the west coast of Australia, and a good portion of the working day for Australia's east coast as well. And of course, the whole of the day in Singapore. What will the Singapore team be doing? Well, you know, very much the same things as the UK teams are doing, really. First and second line service desk support, pre-sale support and consultancy, onboarding support, building relationships. That's really, really important. That's establishing those links, not just with our global customer base, but also with those local OpenAthens resellers as well and partner teams. They'll need to develop excellent product knowledge. And of course, we have the multilingual piece as well, is being able to converse with more customers in their native tongue. I'm going to finish by looking at a fresh look at the OpenAthens customer experience, and I will, Cynthia, get through this as quickly as I can. This quote's been attributed to several people, including Maya Angelou, who said, "I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." And one dictionary definition of the word experience is described as an event or an occurrence which leaves an impression on somebody. What else do we know about experience? Well, experience is cumulative. It's a collection of impressions, interactions, judgments, and situations that add up over time. And because of this, we have to say that experience is based upon the relationship that we have with our customers. It's not just derived from a single transaction, although it could be. Experience, of course, influences the decisions that we make as customers, and experience has consequences. So, for example, a negative experience could make us want to stop using a particular product or service. And experience is about outcomes, not processes. So, not so much a case of what do we need to do, but more of a case of what does a customer want or need to happen. So I just want to introduce the concept of an experience level agreement. I'm sure we've all heard of service level agreements. Experience level agreements basically look to move us beyond service and towards the customer experience. It's a commitment to creating a defined experience and uses something called experience indicators. It's an ongoing dialogue with our customers. That collaboration piece is coming up again, isn't it? And an XLA has to have a shared context and objective. So we and our customers, we want the same thing, which is removing barriers to knowledge and connecting people to information. An XLA has empathy and respect at its core. It's vital that we understand what's important to our customers. And an XLA doesn't necessarily ask if we did the right thing, but more importantly, how was a customer treated? And an important note here is that XLAs are not supposed to supersede service level agreements or replace them, but instead complement them so we can get a more complete picture. This is a watermelon. Why? Well, some of you might have heard of the watermelon effect. This is when traditional SLAs and metrics are green, indicating that all is well and that our customers are happy. Brilliant. But digging below the surface can often tell a different story. So an example could be something like this. We resolved your issue within an agreed timescale, so that's showing as green on our SLAs. So as far as we're concerned, you're happy. But you had to wait a long time between updates. And whenever you did finally receive an update, they were unhelpful, they came across unsympathetic and lacked a proper understanding of the issue. And there's the red. An SLA won't show that. So instead, what we would prefer to have are kiwis, green all the way through and indicative of a great customer experience from start to finish and everything in between. So I've just got something here that perhaps just gives a bit of an overview of some of the key differences between a traditional service level agreement and an experience level agreement. So SLAs tend to be focused on transactions and outputs, whereas XLAs are focused on value and outcomes. One is technology centric, XLAs are customer centric. I can see that my time's coming up, so I won't read through this entire slide, but one thing I will remind us of is that the bolded bit at the bottom, SLAs ask us, did we hit our targets? Whereas XLAs are more interested in, are our customers happy? It's that transition from service to experience. SLAs based around ratings and targets, XLAs based around happiness and perception. I've just got some example experience indicators here for our service desk, because some of these things we're already doing, but things like how easy was it to obtain support, response times, how often were you kept up to date, what did our team demonstrate a good understanding of the issue, things like this. And for our onboarding team, it might be things like, you know, did you get a big enough understanding of the process? How quick was the implementation? Did we make training and self-help materials available to you? Did we provide a good level of support for your patrons? And then finally, for the OpenAthens team, the wider OpenAthens team, and a number of these things we're already doing, but things like, you know, NPS, Net Promoter Score, product functionality, you know, how well a product feature is used, service availability, something we already measure, quality of documentation, customer effort score, how easy was it for a customer to achieve their desired outcome? You know, that could be anything from accessing to support, finding something in our documentation, how easy was it to do something in our product? So I'm just about to close up here. So just to round us off, just to say that customer experience can be both objective and subjective, and feedback can be difficult to collect. So we will be working hard on improving our processes around receiving customer feedback and asking our customers how they feel about the things that matter to them the most. I'd love to hear more about what you consider to be the most important experience indicators as OpenAthens customers. So please do get in touch. We'd really love to work with you on this. And that concludes my session. Thanks for listening today. Please do get in touch, like I say, and I'm going to hand back to Cynthia.
Thank you very much, Matt. That was a great presentation. So I have a few questions here in our Q&A panel. Again, for everyone who's with us today, if you have any questions for Matt, please pop them into the Q&A panel. So the first one is from Mulugeta. So to subscribe to OpenAthens, do we need to go via third party or can we subscribe direct?
So OpenAthens can be purchased or subscribed to direct or through a reseller. We have two different models there, and I think the easiest thing to do would be to perhaps get in touch with our sales team at contact@openathens.net, and we'd be able to provide some more information around that. So yeah, we have a very, very, very good partner network globally, but we also have direct customers also.
Right, amazing. Thanks, Matt. Another question from Frank. So Frank's asking, could you remind us of customer service expectation for US institutions that are channeled through EBSCO? Are there other countries that make use of a third-party customer service desk? Our experience has been very positive, but sometimes I get the sense that firsthand knowledge of the issue is not readily available.
It's a great question, Frank, and this does come up. We have other resellers besides EBSCO, so there are other customers in a similar boat. That particular model means that if you have bought OpenAthens through EBSCO, then you do contact EBSCO support in the first instance. EBSCO and other resellers, I would say, are very much an extension of ourselves. So we work very, very closely indeed with EBSCO and our other resellers in order to get the best outcomes for customers. And of course, we all know that OpenAthens is a complex product. It does take a good amount of time for the various support teams and the various service desks to get up to speed. And yeah, that there may be things that EBSCO support teams have to push over to us, but that's no different from any other reseller. That's what we would expect, and that's why we're here.
Okay, that's great, Matt. We have another one from Mulugeta. Would you give your resellers contact address or email? I think maybe our marketing team or our sales team could get in touch with you, Mulugeta. I think maybe Christos has been already in touch, so we'll get back to you later. And just a quick one from Suzanne. I know that Neil has already replied to that on the chat panel, but just so everyone knows, so Suzanne was asking if we're an existing customer but had major staff change, can we get the welcoming package?
Yeah, absolutely. no problems with sending the welcome pack out to any existing customer. If you're going to find that helpful, then that's absolutely fine. Be more than happy to do that. So do get in touch, and we can get a welcome pack out to you. I mean, we did spot an opportunity there to perhaps fill in some of the gaps and remove some of the mystery around onboarding. I'm sure our partners and resellers are doing very similar things, but we certainly wanted to have something that we could provide to customers at the beginning of their onboarding journey. But yeah, existing customers, absolutely, no problem.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much, Matt. And thanks everyone who joined us for Matt's session and Dan's session earlier on.